Alright there folks, welcome to another Fishing Adventures, and we're not actually on the bank. What I'm doing today is reviewing footage from a match I did a little while ago. It was the first match back after lockdown, and it was a brand new venue, brand new lake, never even seen it before. And I thought I'd just go and see. It was a break from the norm, and I just wanted to see how it went. Now, if you've been following me on Facebook, you'll know roughly what happened, okay, but I want to talk through it anyway, just to get your perspective on it, and also just to make you aware of some of the situations that sometimes we as match anglers need to make during a match, and they don't always work, okay. So sit back and enjoy. We're about 10-15 minutes in, and I've been trying on the short line, as I always try and do, depending on the venue and stuff like that, just to get a feel of what's going to happen with my peg, okay. We've been fishing about 10 or 15 minutes. There's not been a massive amount really happening. I've got a lad 2 pegs up to my left. He's in open water. As you can see, I've got an island in front of me, and I'm hemmed in. I've got about 14 metres. A few variations in depth, not many. So I've set up about 5 lines, to be fair, in the hope of trying to get some carp, because that's what we're going to need today. We're going to need probably 70 to 100 pound to frame today. So that is what I've got in my mind. In these lakes there are some big carp, double figure, 10 pound plus easily. So I know we can sit and quite happily wait 10 minutes for a bite if it's from a decent sized fish. So I've got that all factored in. Bait choices, I've got 6mm, 4mm hard pellets, 6mm and 4mm expanders, some micros, and I've got a few micros just sat in a bit of ground bait just in case I need an extra boost. Hook bait, as a change bait, I've got some sweet corn, and I've also got some white neon fjukas that have got me out of jail more times than I care to remember. So we're about probably 15-20 minutes in now, and I'm getting very little indication on the float. It's not really happening as yet. The lad up to my right, he's got a bit of open water, and he started off on the method feeder, and he had a carp out within about 5 minutes, so that was hopeful, but he's had nothing since. The guy opposite him, he hasn't had anything as yet. The guy to my left has had 2 or 3 carp out already. We're approaching about the half-hour mark now. I've just had that 3-ounce little skimmer out. The sun's coming out, so fingers crossed those fish might start moving around a little bit, trying to get warm, because I've got a nice shallow bit up towards the island. It goes to about 18 inches. The same with my margin swims as well. I've got 1 really shallow one, and I've got 2 deeper ones. So we're just going to hopefully have a ruck up towards the end of the session, and we'll get into these double figure carp. But for now, we just want to see what's in the peg, what's milling around, seeing what sort of things are going to attract the fish in, whether it just be a hook bait or tapping pellets over the top, and we'll just see what happens. Lad next to me's just been in again, so that's probably his 4th or 5th carp already. He's on a right little pod, but he's got a lot of open water around him. So factoring that in, and knowing that there's some nice big double figure carp, I'm not panicking. I'm not going to rush. There doesn't seem to be any point just yet. And as I say, with it being a new lake, I want to just try and feel my way in first. I don't want to go crazy and start feeding 4 or 5 lines from the off and split my fish, basically. If there's any fish in that area, I want to try and zone them into 1 or 2 swims if I can. So that's what we're doing now. We're just going to have a bit of a change. Again, just going in with an expander on the hook. Tap a few micros over the top, and hopefully we'll get stuck into some carp. So there we go. Get that pot filled up. I think actually with this I was using a 4mm hard pellet because I wanted to try and get away from the tiny little skimmers. And just probably 3 or 4 little hard pellets in the pot as well. Yeah, I'm just going to try again. It's a swim. It's about probably 12, 13 metres up to my right. It is fractionally deeper, so hopefully there might be a little pocket of fish in that deeper water. It does widen out slightly, but not massively. But again, I think I spent probably 10 minutes on that line. No indications at all on that float, so it's got me second guessing what is going on. So after we've done that, I wanted just to drop back onto this short line, just to see if we could attract a few fish in, just loose feeding over the top by hand, to see if the noise might draw a few in. So it's back to the drawing board as far as that goes. We've still only got those 2 little skimmers, 3 little skimmers in the net. And I know I'm already quite a way behind on this one now. And as you can see, the sun's gone and jacket weather, it was absolutely Baltic, and that wind was just howling into our faces. It wasn't really ideal, and it did make presenting a bait quite difficult as well, just because of the tow and the lake. I mean, I had quite heavy floats on there. I had 0.5 gram and it was still towing through, so it wasn't ideal. Even with the hard pellet on, it wasn't anchoring on the bottom, which made it incredibly difficult. So yeah, we're just going to plod across and see, just on that far mud line. Now I did give this a real good go. There was nothing short, no indications on that short line at all. So I just really wanted to try a different depth of water, just to get it out of my head really. I didn't think there'd be much over there, but there's quite a bit of cover with some rushes and reeds and stuff. So I thought it was worth a go, just to try, just for like 10-15 minutes or so. Just dot that bait across, almost dobbing in effect, just to see if there's any fish showed up there, and see. Just while I give sort of the short line and the track line a bit of a rest. There's been a tiny little bit of bait going in there, but nothing much. As I say, I don't want to dive straight in and start feeding tons of bait, because it could put the fish off. They're still going to be spooky. They're still deciding whether they're going to wake up or not, so it makes it tricky to get that feeding right. But from what I've noticed so far, the lad to my left has just been fishing pellet and tapping micros over the top. The guy to my right, he had that carp out second chuck. He's had nothing since, no bites or indications or anything. And he's been on the pole, he's been back on the feeder, he's tried his margins. He even dropped in a method feeder on his pole in the margins as well, and literally nothing's been happening. So it just looks like there's not many fish in that area right now. It seems that they want to be, it's like on the tail end of that breeze almost, in some open water. The sun's come back out again now, so we'll see. And again, just dobbing all the way across that far bank. I've got another nice little bit of rushes off to the far edge of the right hand mark. You just never know if there's going to be something having a bit of a sly sneak around that will just fancy a bit of corn or a big pellet or anything like that. But so far, not a sausage. And the worrying thing is as well, I'm getting no indications as well. I'm getting no liners or anything. So it tells me that there aren't even any small fish over there, which is a bit worrying, to be fair. Especially with the guy to my left, I've just seen there in the background, he's just netted another fish. And he's averaging £4 a fish now. but we've still got time if the double figure fish do turn up that we can catch back up. Okay, I'm probably about halfway through the match now, and it's brutal, to be fair. I've not got anything else in the net. Lad to my right's not. The lad opposite him has had a carp out, and that's about it. And I think later on he had a tench out as well, but that was it. So our little area of the lake, even though there was a bit of open water all the way to my right, they weren't there. They wanted to be elsewhere, and it looks like they wanted to be in the peg next to me, to be fair. So by now, I'm probably a good 45, 50 pound behind. So I know I need to really seriously focus on trying to catch the carp. So what I've done now is I've gone back out, and I'm about half a metre away from that slope. As it starts to slope up on that mud line towards the island, I just want to set up a brand new line there that I've not fed anything into there at all, and I've just gone back in with a 6mm expander over micros, and I'm just going to have to sit and wait and see what happens now, and hopefully we can start getting a few decent skimmers out or some decent bream. And there we go, we're in now. It's a bit of a laggy puller, but again, it's a skimmer, a slightly better stamp, but it's not the carp. And when we're stuck in catching the skimmers of that stamp, we need a hell of a lot of fish to even compete, really. I'd be looking at catching probably 4 of them to every 1 carp at least that came out. So I would need probably 150, 180 fish to even start to think about framing. And the way the peg's been so far in the first half at match, I just know it's not going to happen. But while I'm catching, I'm going to stick it out, and hopefully those feeding fish will draw in some of the carp, because that can sometimes happen. Feeding fish will draw in other feeding fish, and hopefully they'll get a few and get their heads down. But the bites are taking a long time to come as well. I'm waiting on average 6 minutes for a bite, which it's going against me again. If I was waiting that long for a bite and it was a 4 or 5 pound carp, I'd more than happily sit there and wait for them to come along. But as I've said, with it being skimmers and small fish, I need to be getting probably 1 out every minute and a half just to compete, and I just don't think there's the volume of fish there for me to be able to do that. Even with a change of hook bait onto corn or hard pellet, it just put them off completely. The only thing I could consistently get bites on was a 6mm or a 4mm expander, but the run of fish just wasn't there. And again, we've just seen there, it's they've got slightly smaller. So yeah, lad to my left had started fishing in about 2 foot, just on the tip of that island. So I thought it's a good time to have a look in the margins. If there's fish willing to feed in that depth, then I've got some really good cover down my right hand margin. In fact, I've got 2 swims that are the same depth. One's in a lot of cover, one's in a little bit of cover, and I've got one quite close to me that's in about 18 inches. So I thought it's time to have a go and see. So I've gone in, I've cupped in a little bit of bait, and I've just dropped my hook bait in over the top. And again, if there's carp there, I can start to build a line and hopefully get the carp in. But again, it just didn't happen. I was presenting the bait and just literally no indications on the float whatsoever. Now normally in margins, if you've seen the margin video that I did, your float's going to move, you're going to get little indications even from tiny little roach, but there was just nothing there. It was just completely devoid of life, and I tried all 3 swims as well. and it just it kind of knocked me for six, that, because I was expecting something to be there, even if it was small roach or a few skimmers. So I decided to cut my loss after about 20 minutes and go back onto that line that had produced the fish before. I fed it before I came off it in the hope that it would just keep the fish there if there was any there, or just draw a few in if they were in the area. And it's just a matter of just trying and seeing. But again, I went back on it. I spent 10 minutes there, no indications whatsoever. So it was time to try a cross, really. That was the only other option that I had available to me that I felt could produce a carp, because this is what I need now. I need carp. It's getting to the latter stages of the match and literally nothing's happening. The guy left to the left of me, he's catching 4 or 5 pound carp. He's even pulling out goldfish that are about £1.5 pound, for God's sake. Do you know what I mean? It's getting to the point where I'm thinking of just pricing up golf clubs, to be fair. It's so frustrating, especially when you know the fish are roughly in the area but you just cannot draw them in. But yeah, it's just the way it goes. With me not seeing the lake before, it has a massive detrimental effect on the decisions that you make. Do you know what I mean? It's like, to be fair, I would never pick that peg to do pleasure fishing in anyway. But if I'd have been up and had a pleasure session, you can find the little nuances of the lake and how the fish respond and stuff like that. But obviously I didn't have that information, so it made it really difficult. But never giving up, I decided to feed the margins again and just make sure that there was bait there for when these big carp do turn up. But as you can see, I'm just taking 5 minutes out just to clear my head, see what everyone else is doing that I can see. I know there's a guy far off to the right, he's plundering them in the margins. The lad next to him, he's catching them on the pole. The lad next to him is catching them on the pole on the point of his island, and the lad next to me is catching in open water and to the island. I'm scratching my head in the middle. The guy to my right is scratching his head as well. I think he's had one out of the margin, a bream. It was about 3 or 4 pounds, so it was a good fish. And if they ruck up, then you normally get 3 or 4 in a good go. But that was it. So I fed the margins. I spent a few minutes just watching them, just to see if there were any swirls. There was nothing doing at all. So I didn't see the point in dropping a bait on with there being no indications there. So I went back onto the line that had produced the fish, and lo and behold, 5 minutes later, we're into another skimmer. So the carp just aren't there, basically. And there's not really much I can do. I've kind of tried everything. But I've kind of questioned whether or not I should have got the feeder rod out of the bag. It was set up and ready to go. I just didn't bring it down because I didn't think I had the room to do it. But in hindsight, maybe if I set up a small pellet feeder and just pushed that out to the far right of my swim, I might have tagged another couple of bream or something. I certainly don't think there were any carp in that area, or the guy to my right had clattered a few, and I'd have had a few out as well, without a doubt, if they were in the area. But an extra couple of bream, it wouldn't have made a massive difference to the outcome, unfortunately. And again, Ash to my left, he's getting the odd liner now from his point of the island. So I've just gone straight across with a pellet on the hook. I think I tried a 4mm pellet just out of desperation, even if it were just to get a roach, just to prove to me that there were some fish there. But again, there was nothing, so it was back to the margins. And it was almost last chance saloon. We're getting to that point now where if I catch 8 10-pounders, I'm in with a chance. But I'm running out of time to get 10 or 8 10-pounders out. Do you know what I mean? It's they're not just going to come to the surface and get netted straight away. So you've got to really balance it out. I know the lads in the split that would be in front of me if the island wasn't there, they've been getting a few carp out as well. There's been a few coming out Excuse me. Just not in my area. And there we go, little Mr. Robin, and that was about the highlight of the video, folks. So if you switch off now, I'll totally understand. But yeah, it's got to the point now where I'm thinking, if this is a carp, I'm going to keep on fishing. If it isn't, I may as well cut my losses. And lo and behold, it's another skimmer. It's just a nightmare. But yeah, I'm certainly interested in your comments on this one as well. I know it's been a bit like car crash TV and stuff like that, but give us a thumbs up anyway, just to cheer me up, because I'm still really fed up about it. But yeah, drop a comment below. Let me know if you've got any ideas, or maybe something you've done in the past that's worked and stuff like that. And we'll just see. But I've given up now. I'm even eating biscuits, which I never eat anything when I'm fishing. And if this is a carp, I'm going to stick it out. And what have we got? No, the body language says it all. It's another skimmer. And that was it. And it even fell off as well, just to rub salt in the wound. And yeah, I looked at the watch. It was 4:45. I knew I didn't have a cat in hell's chance of even framing. So it was time to pack up, tip them fish back, and have an early bath, to be fair. One for the dustbin, I think, this one. But if you've got some value out of it or some benefit, let me know. And if you want to support the channel as well, click the link below for Buy Me a Coffee, and buy me a coffee, because that would be really cool. And I'll catch you all later. Cheers.